Hi, so I spent the last few weeks of my limited life on this earth playing only Virtual Boy games. Was it fun? No! If you don't know, the Virtual Boy is a quote-unquote handheld console made by Nintendo in the 1990s. And it did something extremely innovative for the time. Stereoscopic 3D, which was in itself quite the popular thing at the time in things like movies. The console was also based on 32-bit hardware, which, believe it or not, was more advanced than the 16-bit hardware the previous console of Nintendo had. It was itself also handled by the legendary Nintendo designer Gunpei Yokoi, who had a huge part in revolutionary projects like the Game & Watch, Game Boy and WonderSwan. So, what could possibly go wrong? Well, I did forget to mention a few little things about the console that made it a bit less appealing. Most importantly, as a cost-cutting measure, the whole console only displayed shades of red, which reportedly caused dizziness and headaches. Its portability feature was just a technicality, because you needed to wear these uncomfortable goggles that were placed on an irremovable stand, because the console itself was pretty heavy. It was also rushed out onto the market to compete with the
Sony PlayStation,
which looked a lot better than it, even though both of the consoles were based on 32-bit hardware. And throughout its whole lifespan, across both regions, only 22 whole games were released for it. And it was expensive as hell. And it was marketed with an ad where it forcefully attaches itself to a teenager's head in a post-apocalyptic world it presumably cost, which I don't think sold any grannies on buying it for Christmas. Or maybe it did so, I don't know. This all led to the whole project crashing and burning, with it not even reaching 100,000 copies sold, it never reaching Europe or Australia. It was also discontinued in the US after a year and in Japan after only 6 months. After that, Nintendo moved most of their resources into making the a bit more popular N64, and we never saw Virtual Boy again. Except for some cameos, but they aren't important to the narrative, so shush! So now, in 2026, that Nintendo is in the best spot it's ever been, with movies, theme parks, Pikmin, award-winning titles made every year like Pikmin 4, and a console that will become probably the best-selling of all time if Sony doesn't summon another 10 million PS2 copies to their counter. And the successor of that console has already cemented itself as the fastest-selling console of all time. So now, 30 years later after it was discontinued, the great minds at Nintendo decided to grace us with the return of the Virtual Boy, with an emulator for the Nintendo Switch Online members, to the absolute bewilderment and amusement of absolutely everyone who knows anything about Nintendo. Virtual Boy!
To enjoy a collection of Virtual Boy.
Why? But to be really honest, I'm actually really okay with this being a thing. In these times, many of the major companies that exist don't really want you to remember about their less fortunate past. So it's cool to have the Virtual Boy experience preserved in an official way, which will give more people a chance to experience what it had to offer. This also allowed them to finally release some of the games that, because of the poor sales of the Virtual Boy, never saw the light of day, despite being completely finished. Like, it's been announced with, among other, as in singular, there's only one other game except this one, a lost entry in the F-Zero franchise, Zero Races. Zero Racers will be released. But, unfortunately, there are many caveats to all of this. First of all, it's a part of a paid subscription service, and the higher tier of it at that. Yum yum yum. And that would be just okay, nothing special. They've done that with other emulators before. If Nintendo didn't force you to buy an accessory from the official Nintendo store cause they needed to make this experience authentic, you can buy either the recreation of the entire console for about €80 or $100. Or you could buy the 25 euro or dollar cardboard box with lenses, because without either of these accessories, you cannot play the Virtual Boy games. And this just adds another cost of an already costly subscription price, but also misses the potential of finally offering the games for the first time into the costs. Come on! Who cares for the 3D factor of the Virtual Boy? Who cares if Mario's ball looks like it touches you and excuses you for disturbing you on this quiet fine morning? And you also can put the console in the dock to enjoy the games or record them, which is just so... Also, even though they promised to offer quality of life features like finally changing the filter on the games so they are not eye-piercingly red, those features will be available in a later update. Which is kinda absurd to me, since they seem to be just filters that should have been done rather quickly, and also they didn't shadow drop this emulator unlike the other times, so I thought they had time to work on these things. And also the emulator only launched with only a few of the games they promised to bring to the console. Which again, guys, you had time to do that. Why wouldn't you just delay the emulator and just kinda put it all at the same time? I know you've been drip feeding games before, but really, who really cares that much about the Virtual Boy to come back to see those games? The whole release just seems to be very bizarre and overpriced. And what do I do when Nintendo does bizarre things? I support them to the end. So yes, I actually bought it. The cardboard version, of course, because I don't hate myself that much to buy this overpriced piece of plastic. At least for the next 1112 days. Today, I tasked myself with reviewing and playing through 100% of all the games that were available at the launch of this thing. Oh, and also, by the way, my body doesn't really like when I look at any kind of VR thing for prolonged periods of times. Thank you to Freddy Fazbear for teaching me that.
Just don't tense up. Come on.
So, this will be fun. Oh, and also, all the footage you see now on the screen had to be recorded after the fact in an emulator, because would you look at something like this for the next 20 minutes?
How do I do? There's a question mark block below me, but I don't know how to break it. It's in the ground. I don't know how to do it. Very weird. What's this? Okay, I got a power up. It gave me horns. So now when I dash, I can break block. Okay.
Who the fuck was that? Like the name suggests, it is indeed a boxing game. And I need to tell you a secret. I have never played a boxing game besides like a couple of minutes of Punch-Out. And while I did enjoy myself for what it was, that's my whole experience with boxing games. In this game, unlike Punch-Out, you fight as a robot, which is cool. But these controls are kinda really confusing. So for most of the game, you just block and fight using the two joysticks. The left one to use as the left hand and with the L button being used to kinda jab the enemy. And I'll give you time to guess what the other joystick and the R button do. But the controls feel in a way sleepy. In a way that it's really easy to move your hands in a direction you don't want them to go, and those controls don't really feel that optimized for joysticks nor the Joy-Con buttons, which I don't blame the developers of the game for this, because it was made for a controller with two D-pads for some reason, which probably can't be replicated that well on any of the two possible control options on the Switch 2. Which only begs the question, why didn't they just allow you to buy a Virtual Boy-like controller? But that's neither here or there. On the other hand, Nintendo could have easily tweaked the joystick sensitivity on this emulator at least a a little bit. Even though the console has the 3D depth to see where the enemy robot is trying to punch before he kicks you in the nuts and drives away on a unicycle, this really doesn't help in any way, and it's still hard, at least for me, to know in what exact position do you have to be to block the enemy's attack, or more importantly, to punch them in a way that they don't block you. But are there any good parts about it? I guess the art is good, but the color palette of the console just ruins everything. Again, this is an opinion from someone that doesn't know much about boxing games, but after trying this one for a bit, I'll give this game 1.2 screaming dockos on the enjoyment rating. But hey, it can only get better, right? Oh god, I really hope it only gets better. Let's look at whatever the next game is.
P and Esau present.
Look man, I like golf. I've never played it in real life, but I like watching it, and I'm one of those annoying people that think Mario Golf Super Rush is pretty good. Yes, we're real. The UN won't dare to recognize us, even though it recognized Liechtenstein. But coming back to Golf 1995, this is just golf. And in my golf games that I enjoy, I like to see where my golf ball can end up while I'm shooting, and I didn't know this was something I was taking for granted in the other golf games I played. The aiming is also, again, too sensitive, and the ball almost feels weirdly sluggish, and it doesn't roll like almost at all in a way that would help you tell how far it will go. And I get it, it was 1995, but that doesn't make this game better in my books. Also, when you're aiming your shot, there's this minigame where you have to perfectly time with a dot that's constantly moving at the right time for the ball to go the right way. Because if you don't, whoops, the ball goes in a completely different direction as if nothing you did before mattered to it at all. And I just don't like this minigame. Or this game at all, and otherwise it's just a golf game. There's nothing that special about it, and just leaves me wondering how much starvation of content did the person have to endure to even think about buying a golf game for the Virtual Boy. And again, the main selling point, the 3D, doesn't help in any way, and feels tacked on for no reason on a console whose only reason of existence is to play games in 3D. And almost immediately after I started playing, I felt sick, which actually did not happen with any of the other games I played. Thanks, Nintendo! Why is this a game at all? Who thought a bad golf game would be a system seller? Enjoyment ranking, no screaming dockos about 7. This is the worst game thus far by far, and at least the previous game had semi-enjoyable graphics, but here it's just boring and unappealing terrain and weirdly photorealistic trees and humans, which look out of place. There is no joy to be had in this game. I'm already tired of saying things about the Virtual Boy, and we're not even on the third game. Look how long it takes to select Wario on the boot-up screen. I think this should be a crime. Fortnite. I came to this game with the knowledge that this is widely considered as the best game on this console, but to that I say, yeah, those people are probably right, which is kinda sad to think about. Like, I have a few nitpicks about how the controls feel, and I feel like Wario's bash should last a little bit longer. But besides that, it's a fun and solid platformer that's pretty well designed, with fun exploration of the levels, to find keys to progress further, and to find other hidden collectibles, which is all fun. It also has a fun main gimmick of being able to go into the background layers of the level, which kinda reminds me of Little Big Planet, which the mere memory of it was the only thing that gave me any kind of joy after Sony sent that franchise to live on the happy Astrobot farm. So yeah, I'd say that Virtual Boy Wario Land is fun. And as a bonus, it kinda uses the Virtual Boy's functionality, which kinda looks cool, but it's still not done in a way that's really all that meaningful and doesn't really necessitate it being on a 3D console. In summary, it's like a 6 out of... Oh my god, Why did I make the scale out of 7 again? God damn! 6 out of 7 on the Screaming Doko enjoyability ranking. And just to clarify, the Screaming Doko enjoyability ranking is just how much I enjoyed my time with a particular game, not a real IGN-like review rating system, cause obviously this isn't near the level of things like, I don't know, Hollow Knight Silksong. And obviously the fact that I enjoy things doesn't mean that I'm gonna say things like fuck Jeff K from preventing me from living in the Virtual Boy Wario and Supremacy reality. I just needed to get all of this off my chest, so there's absolutely no room for misconstruction of the absolutely serious analysis and review of the games I'm doing here. Also, my older sister tried this game before me, said that the frogs from this game were disturbing to her, so I was incredibly interested about what scary frogs she was talking about, and it turned out to be this. Maybe I watched too many a Markiplier to get scared by this. So I'm sorry in advance if showing this frog on the screen gave you cardiac arrest. If you want me to pay the bill for the possible medical bills because of the frog, send your letters to the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles and ask for a man named Jack Kirby, and he'll gladly forward them to me. Did you know that there were 2 Tetris games released for the Virtual Boy? Yeah. Tetris 3D, no, 3D Tetris, sorry for my heresy, starts us with the introduction of these weird, kinda humanoid Tetromino creatures, which personally for me fit nicely into the same horror niche as Chuck E. Cheese animatronics, which still are a lot less creepy than whatever the hell the Chuck E. Cheese company is trying to do now. It may not seem like 3D Tetris is fun since, but it might be my favorite Virtual Boy game so far, at least. It takes the core concept of Tetris, but also actually takes advantage of the concept of a 3D console, and what would that mean to Tetris? In a cool way. Well, kinda. The blocks you place in the easy modes aren't actually made out of 4 different blocks like the regular Tetrominos, but are made out of very different shapes and sizes. And while I get it why someone would see that as something bad, I get why they decided against putting the regular Tetrominos in every mode and limiting them only to the hard one, cause it is a lot more difficult to fill up the bottom than in regular Tetris. Oh yeah, the gameplay. It is similar to Tetris, but instead of filling up one line to erase the bottom, you have to fill up a 5x5 block square for the floor to disappear. And to do that, you can not only make the blocks turn left and right, but also vertically. And overall, trying to match the next block to the floor and strategizing where you can put another one, while it is pretty different, it does retain the fun of the Tetris gameplay loop. Which may or may not be in part thanks to the new shapes that work great in 3D. It also has an incredibly smartly thought out puzzle mode in which you have to copy a structure with your Tetrominos, which is also really fun, and something that makes a lot of sense in a 3D Tetris game. And there's also another mode in which to delete a floor you have to put the centerpiece at the end, which, well, in my opinion is the least innovative of the 3. It is still fun, and still forces you to change up your strategy from the main mode. So I'd say the mode does enough to justify its existence. Unlike some other games available on this godforsaken console, it also probably has the best soundtrack of the Virtual Boy, cause another feature of the great Virtual Boy is that its sound chip sucks. So I'm glad the devs of this game managed to even produce anything that doesn't sound like a mic put through a cheese grater, let alone these catchy tunes. But there are a few things I'm going to nitpick about. First of all, while I think the gameplay loop is overall fun, there's a bit less instant gratification that you get from Tetris, which makes the original Tetris so popular and addictive, which is in no way a fault of the game. And to be honest, I don't see a way they could have included this aspect while making the game, but it is a thing that I think is important to remember if you ever want to write a college thesis about this game. And secondly, the camera sucks. It moves constantly and there's no way to lock it in one place. You can only temporarily reset its position, which is annoying to deal with while trying to fit the Tetrominus in the hole that is made for them. So, because of all these problems, this another 6 out of 7 on Idako schemes of enjoyment. The Mansion of Innsmouth. This is a horror game, which is cool, but to be honest, it's very early 90s horror game. Like, they didn't have Markiplier yet to desensitize a whole generation to horror in general. So, in the game, you have to go through different floors of the titular Mansion of Innsmouth within a time limit and collect keys to get to higher and higher levels of the mansion until you eventually finish the game. And while you do that, you come across some gabagools along the way, which you shoot with an incredibly awkwardly moving cursor. And if they gabba on your ghoul a bit too much, yo gabba gabba die from head trauma to the frontal lobe.
One more.
The stick controls to control the character are again very wonky. And you sometimes end up in the wrong corridor. But because some rooms look almost exactly the same, you don't know if you went in the right way, and when you realize that you have gone the wrong way, your heart explodes. But at least you have a map to quickly check where you're going, and if you pick up orbs in a level, an exit and items will be revealed on it. But that doesn't really matter, since you're gonna be running all over the place anyways. The game also gets a bit too repetitive for me, at least in its level design, since everything looks the damn same, and you approach the monsters in the same way, by either running away from them or slowly trying to shoot them. What's cool about this game is that, depending on which door you go through, you unlock a different split path with a different level, and you can get up to 4 different endings, which is a pretty novel idea, and means that you'll probably won't experience the exact same game twice. Still, the levels just look incredibly samey, and the game overall is not that interesting to me. So yeah, this game has many problems, but overall it's fine enough, and its short length kinda makes the problems less obnoxious. Also, when you're on the menu for the split paths, the track that plays is really similar to a track from Capcom's Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. And thinking about Ghost Trick makes me happy. I think I'm slowly becoming numb to the Virtual Boy in general, and I didn't even talk about how the 3D affects this game, cause it really doesn't. Again! But anyways, what you should get out of this section is that you should buy Ghost Trick. It's a life-changing game, so stop watching this bullcrap and please experience peak fiction.
Welcome to Space World. Let's go.
This is pinball, alright. Pinball out of pinball enjoyment ranking. That's it. It's a fine cosmic shooter that has pretty good controls, is still very red, which makes it really hard to distinguish what's an enemy and what's an item. And the faces on the corridor doors are cool. I'm not really that big of a fan of Star Fox-like shooters, which this pretty obviously is one, but I like the look of the game, because it kinda reminds me of that one Star Wars New Hope scene that they later made a whole 2-hour movie and TV show to explain. So overall, 4 out of 7 Doko screaming enjoyment ranking. You can hear from my voice that I'm having fun. Okay, next up we have nothing. I would advise you to check your house for carbon monoxide. But yeah, again, Nintendo only released 8 games at launch. What a shocker! So now, what else can I do with this hunk of junk? Like, it would be fun to go full-on angry video game nerd and destroy it, but I'm at a similar point of financial stability as James's hairline, so yeah, I ain't gonna do that. Yeah, I think I said as much as I possibly could about the Virtual Boy. So, is it worth it? Again, I'm gonna give this a big fat no. Do not buy this product. You do not want to play Virtual Boy games. And even if you do want to play them, just emulate them and enjoy them in the glorious 2 dimensions. Virtual Boy is not worth buying an entire subscription for it. But if you already have the expansion pass for other reasons and want to try it, I'd say do whatever you want with your money, but I still think the glasses being basically mandatory for playing the games you don't even technically own is pretty darn stupid. And no, I do not care that Mario Tennis and Mario Clash were released on March 10th. This video has been in the works since February. This changes nothing, so bye!